The wave of military coups in Africa struck once again, and this time in Nigeria's tiny West African neighbor, Benin Republic, in the early hours of Sunday. Several soldiers of the Benin Armed Forces, led by Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigri, took to streets shooting sporadically and eventually announcing the overthrow of Beninese President Patrice Talon on national television after an attack on Talon's residence in Cotonou. Within hours, the coup was quickly thwarted by loyalist forces with support from the Nigerian military, prompting an ECOWAS standby force to deploy even more security. In line with a request by the government of Benin and in exercise of its constitutional powers, Nigeria's President Bola Tiinubu writes to the Senate requesting approval to deploy military troops on peace mission to the neighboring country. Tiinubu says his decision follows due consultation with the National Defense Council.
I seek further to consultation with the National Defense Council, the consent of the Senate for the deployment of Nigerian troops to the Republic of Benin.
President Tiinubu also adds that the request is urgently required so as to immediately deploy Nigerian military personnel as requested by Benin's President Patrice Talon. As a major force in the ECOWAS sub-region, Tiinubu notes that the situation in Nigeria's next-door neighbor requires swift external intervention in the spirit of mutual cooperation between both nations and in line with ECOWAS security protocols.
The government of the Republic of Benin is currently faced with an attempted unconstitutional seizure of power and disruption and destabilization of democratic institutions.
The Nigerian Senate then swiftly committed the president's request to the Committee of the Whole and wasted no time in granting approval for military intervention in Benin, despite calls from Senator Siraki Dixon for a robust debate on the matter and the need for good governance by elected leaders across Africa.
I have thought that with the communication of Mr. President, which has been read this morning, that we will discuss the validity and the appropriateness and add value to it, because the whole essence is for that communication to be debated, for it to enjoy legitimacy.
Sorry, you are wrong. All the senators here that gave consent are aware of the content of that letter. They would not have given consent if they were not in agreement with the president's request.
Without the issue being debated, a voice note eventually led to a unanimous resolution being reached, even as senators took turns to commend President Bola Tiinubu for his quick and decisive action to restore democracy in Benin Republic. Senate leader Okpeyemi Bamidele clarifies the action of the president.
Today, what we have done was to respond in compliance with the provision of section 5 sub 5, because the president requested for our consent on what was done in Benin Republic.
The Senate subsequently resolved that a formal letter of approval be dispatched immediately to the president to sustain the military action in Benin Republic. Omo Bazwai, Arise News.